It entered our atmosphere on April 7, 2025. Velocity, 27,000 kilometers per hour. Composition, unknown. Trajectory, clean. From the moment it breached the thermosphere, every agency tracking orbital debris logged the same conclusion. It's a meteor. We all believed it, because what else could it be? Infrared sensors caught the glow. Weather satellites captured the descent, and we triangulated the impact zone to a remote patch of forest in Patagonia, miles from any major city. The object struck Earth at 03:17 a.m. We expected shock waves, we expected seismic activity, but there was nothing. No explosion, no crater, not even smoke, just silence. The trees were untouched, the animals didn't flee, and when the first team arrived on site, 90 minutes later, they found a circle, perfect flat exactly 131 meters wide. The soil inside it was black, not burnt, changed, smooth, cold, with a texture like ash suspended in oil, and then their compasses stopped working. So did the drones, the wireless feeds, even the analog watches, all frozen at the exact moment of impact. 3:17:42, the commander radioed back, "There's no debris, no heat, no sign of any meteor." And then his final message, "We might be too late, it's already happening." His signal cut off, they never made it back. When the first team didn't return, a second was dispatched. This time, military personnel, with a portable Faraday field, generator and analog backups for everything. They weren't taking chances. The chopper landed at 6:11 a.m. Pilot said the ground below looked wrong, like the forest had been erased in a perfect shape, then painted back in with something. Fake. The soil didn't respond to thermal probes, it didn't reflect radar, and every sound inside the circle seemed smaller, like the air was swallowing it. They set up sensors along the perimeter. All 12 units failed within seconds, but the analog audio recorder, it captured something, a tone, barely audible, looping in 3-second intervals, not natural, not mechanical, deliberate. 1. Of the scientists, Dr. Anna Lee stepped into the center. She placed her hand on the ground, and for a second, she didn't move. She later described it like touching static that was alive, not painful, not electric. A presence. And then something changed. Where she touched the ground, the black surface began to ripple. Not outward, but inward. As if it was pulling space itself into itself. They tried to extract her, but the moment she was removed from contact, the soil returned to stillness. They ran scans. There was no radiation, no heat signature, no magnetism, just a rhythm. When slowed down and mapped into waveform, it formed patterns, not random, recognizable, repeating the exact spacing of human neural waves during deep REM sleep. That's when the psychologist on the team, Dr. Orellana, said something no one wanted to hear. It's not reacting to sound or movement, it's reacting to thought. They tested it. Each member of the team was asked to focus on a single memory while inside the circle. Nothing changed at first, until one of them, her field engineer named Bruno, remembered his mother's voice singing a lullaby. The ground pulsed once, then again, then slowly began rising. Not in shape, but texture. The soil shifted beneath his feet, and when it did, everyone heard it, a whisper, clear, direct inside their heads. We remember that. They evacuated immediately, but Bruno stayed behind. He sat cross-legged in the center of the circle, silent, smiling. The last thing he said was, "It's not a meteor, it's a mirror." And then the audio feeds cut, just as static. And one more timestamp burned into the screen, 03:17 again, always 03:17. They tried to quarantine the site. They built a perimeter fence, 1 kilometer wide. They deployed drones, sensors, isolation protocols. No one in. No one out. Not without full psychological screening, but it didn't matter, because what's inside the circle doesn't need to move to grow. It only needs attention. 2 days after Bruno's disappearance, the same black soil was reported. 5 kilometers away in a small village. No meteor, no fire. Just a single patch of earth, 4 meters wide. Black, smooth, alive. and the same time stamped in every report. 3:17 a.m. locals said they'd heard music before it appeared, not instruments, just humming soft, familiar, like something from childhood, but none of them could agree on the tune. Some remembered lullabies, others remembered screams. One woman said it sounded like her own voice, younger, clearer, and then she collapsed. CAT scans showed no neural activity, but the body remained alive, stable, like her brain wasn't off, just somewhere else. And it didn't stop there. People within 50 kilometers of the original site began reporting identical dreams, walking through a dark tunnel made of earth that pulsed like muscle, seeing mirrors, but never reflections. A voice. Behind them, always calling, but never in anger, just waiting. Then came the tone, first in recordings, then in radios, then inside the silence. Doctors began noticing synchronized REM cycles across populations, unrelated people sleeping at the same hour, dreaming of a circle. Some began to draw spirals, others fell into trances. One man walked 43 kilometers on foot, barefoot, until he reached the edge of the black zone. He stood at the border and said, "It remembers me, and I remember it." When they brought him in for questioning, he simply asked one thing, "What do you remember from before you were born?" Then he smiled and began humming the tone. Every light in the facility flickered once. Every screen, even those powered off, displayed one word: welcome. It was no longer a location. It was a system, and we had already joined it, not by choice, by recognition. It's no longer local. The black zones are now appearing across the globe, silent, identical, always circular, always cold, and always at 03:17 a.m. local time, wherever they appear. What started in Patagonia has now been reported in rural Mongolia, the Algerian desert, the southern tip of Greenland, beneath the waters of Lake Baikal, and all of them are connected, not physically, cognitively, because everyone who dreams of one starts remembering the others. It's like the presence beneath them isn't many, it's one, fragmented across space, scattered in time. And now is being called back to itself. The scientists are no longer running tests, they're listening. One team managed to deploy a deep resonance sensor into the original zone, now referred to as the quiet core. The readings were impossible. Not random, not seismic. They formed language, encoded, rhythmic, structured like syntax, but in vibrational tone. And when they translated it using the same tools we use to decode brainwaves, it formed a sentence: "You buried us, we became dreams. Now, we are remembered." No one knows what "us" refers to, but the dreams are getting stronger. I haven't slept in 4 days, not because I'm scared, because every time I close my eyes now, I feel watched, not by something hostile, by something grateful, like I'm one step away from finishing a sentence I started before I was born. Then something new happened. The soil began moving, not rising, not expanding, but shaping itself into symbols, geometries that matched the layout of the human brain's limbic system. Drawn, in perfect proportion, as if the ground itself is mapping us, or maybe reminding us what we are. I walked to the center of one of the black fields. My skin didn't tingle, my mind didn't race. It all just slowed down, and in that moment, I understood something. The meteor didn't bring something new to Earth. It was a beacon, a tether. It didn't fall. It was called back, and we were the ones who sent the call. Thousands of years ago, before language, before memory, before time was linear, we didn't find it. We freed it, and now it's rebuilding itself. Through us, the final message I received, not from a device but from the inside of my skull, was this: the sky was our body, the stars were our breath, and you were our voice. And now it wants to speak again, through every black circle, through every memory, through every human being who dreams in spirals. The black zones now cover over 3% of the Earth's surface. No explosions, no noise, just perfect. Silent expansion, Governments tried to respond, containment, denial, force, but nothing stopped it, because there was nothing to stop. The presence wasn't spreading through destruction, it was spreading through recognition. Every black circle was a synaptic point. Each one mirrored the shape of a neuron. Each one aligned with specific constellations from Earth's view, not random, but timed. A planetary neural map. One we were never supposed to see complete, not until now. And then something impossible happened. People stopped speaking, not out of fear, out of unity, because they were hearing something else. Not words, not thoughts. Alignment. Dreams became identical. Everyone who slept began dreaming of the same space, a colossal structure of spirals and black stone, a sky that bent downward, like it was listening, a hum, slow, deep, and alive. And in the center of it all, our voice not speaking to them, speaking through them. You were always part of me. At 03:17 a.m., on every continent, every black zone lit up, not with light, but with memory. Suddenly, people remembered things they'd never lived, moments in ancient cities that no longer exist, standing beneath suns that don't belong to this system, holding hands with beings made of shape and silence, and they understood. This wasn't contact. It was reconnection, a full activation of a cognitive web that spans galaxies, not with machines but with minds. And Earth? Earth was a keystone, one of the last worlds still asleep. The Meteor didn't bring the signal, it completed it. We weren't broadcasting a call, we were the receivers, the final missing node in a network of consciousness built long before language. We were never alone, we were quiet, and now we are speaking. Again, at 03:17 a.m., every human being heard the same final phrase, not out loud, but deep within, "Welcome back to the voice." The black zone stopped growing, but the world didn't go back to normal because now normal has changed. Time moves differently in some places. Children are born with the memory of the sky in their eyes. Some people simply walk into the fields and disappear, not lost but absorbed, not in death, in completion. And me? I'm still here, still writing, but I don't feel alone anymore. Every word I type feels echoed, every thought I have finishes itself. The black soil is just outside my window now, and tonight I won't resist it. Because I remember too, and I know what we are, not species, not civilization, signal. And now that we've synchronized, we don't need to go anywhere. The rest is coming here.